Thanks for coming.
Yes. It's really fun.
Yay! Today on the podcast we have Patrick Kline. Patrick is the lead advisor for Royce Zimmerman and Associates here in Denver. He is the primary contact and relationship manager for their clients. Patrick consistently reviews our clients' goals and objectives. I love this. You know that I love this because that's what I like to do too. While implementing new strategies designed for success to help ensure that they stay on the right financial path. Awesome. He has obtained his state life and health insurance licenses. I didn't know you had life insurance.
Yep.
Okay, we'll have to talk about that. Series 6, 63, and 7 securities licenses. That's a lot of them. RACP designation. I don't know what that means.
Retirement Income Certified Professional.
Oh, well, I'm going to have to ask you questions about what that means.
Okay.
And holds the Certified Financial Planner designation. In his free time, Patrick enjoys cycling, road bike, and spending time with his wife, Ashley, and daughter, Olivia.
That's it.
And you're also a native.
No, not quite.
That's right. You're not a native.
No, I've been here but 20 some odd years now. Close enough.
Close enough. I guess we'll give it to you.
Thank you.
What is an RACP designation?
So, a lot of what we find today is, we've got just the baby boomer generation, right? And so what we find is that a lot of clients who walk in, they've got someone that they've worked with for a really long time, has either managed their assets really well or done something on their insurance side, but as they're retiring, their advisor is also retiring. And so they just want a team to help actually get them through the finish line to retirement. And so what we're finding is that a lot of people have built a lot of assets, but there then becomes what we call the distribution phase. Right? So you can't walk into King Soopers with $1 million in your 401k, right? And just buy bread.
You need it.
Yeah, so you need to turn those assets into income. And so part of taking that designation or going through those courses was just learning different strategies that are out there and maximizing Social Security, how that works. And then, how do we just, all these buckets of money that we have, they've got nuances to them, whether it be from a risk standpoint or a tax standpoint. So how do we strategically draw from all these different buckets of money to create your paycheck?
That's really interesting. So that's the flip side of this is how much I need.
Exactly.
Nobody ever thinks of how am I going to get it out of there.
Right, exactly.
Once we do that.
Yeah.
Perfect. I love it. So this is my first favorite question. I always ask this one because it's funny how it comes back a lot of the time.
Right.
What was your first job?
I worked at Cold Stone.
Oh!
I was an ice cream scooper.
Is that like an ice cream barista? Do you guys have fancy names?
I don't know what they called us then. Yeah, I guess an ice cream artist or something. I don't know. But
I love that.
Yeah, so that was my very first job.
That's awesome. What did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh boy. When I was really young, I wanted to be a scientist. Didn't know what that meant. Then realized I wasn't a big science person. But I've always been really big into music, actually. So I've been drumming since I was 8 years old or something like that. So music was the big thing for a long time. And then going into school, I actually went the route of music business.
Oh, okay.
And so I realized, I was like, well, if you have to learn the business side of anything if you're going to be successful at it. And realizing actually the capstone course was a finance course. But it just had the wrapper of music over it, so I kind of latched onto it, and so just realizing all the different financial things related to music, I was like, oh, I really like this part of it. And so from there, I just jumped in. Actually, I was recruited by my girlfriend, who's now my wife, her older sister's boyfriend at the time. But
most people don't go from college to financial advisor, so that's interesting.
No, well, and I think too, I've always worked since I was 16, so it was either, scooping ice cream, it was waiting tables, it was something. And so I think at that point I was actually working at a local jewelry store, and I knew I didn't want to be there, but it was just something. It was almost like, more power to people who do that, because it's a service industry. So you're there on weekends, it's just a lot of unhappy people sometimes.
Yeah. But what you do now is the service industry too. It's interesting how those things kind of line up.
Yeah, it is. And so I think it was realizing that one, I think from a career mobility, there's a glass ceiling very quickly.
Yes.
And maybe I'm just a slightly entitled millennial, but I wanted something that I was emotionally invested in, found value and belief in what I was doing. And I didn't believe in selling jewelry, right? It's so it was, it's enough to wear a wedding ring for me. I'm like,
right.
that's enough.
That's
Plenty.
to know.
Never a watch. But So I knew that being turned on to, at least to the firm that I work with now, was just helping people. Mm-hmm. And that was a big thing. And growing up, having some sense of finance, but not really like a real structure of here's the things to be thinking about. I had no education, and it was almost I stumbled across a lot of things. And so as I was young, it's like, why didn't anyone tell me about this? And so maybe it's my inner impetus is to make sure that people do smart things with their money now.
We both run across people who could be doing smarter things with their money, probably. Yeah. Including myself.
Just a couple.
Just a couple things. No. Just little things.
Right.
So you got into financial planning through some just other people you knew, and then is that the firm you're in now?
Yeah. So Northwestern Mutual is the company I started for as an advisor, and so I started in that role, kind of building my practice that way. Mm-hmm. Did that for a few years. Also helped with our management side too. So co-ran our internship program there, and then just realized, being a young guy right out of college, like trying to twist your friend's arm to like, compete over their beer money versus their future wasn't really wasn't easy.
It's not easy to start with your friends.
No, and they don't like me anyway. So no, but
they don't want you to talk about money. That's for sure.
Yeah, right. And so that was just tough. And so I realized I was like, I want to be able to help people in a greater capacity. And so in order to do that, I feel like I need to join a team and be part of that. And so I joined Royce Zimmerman's team probably about 3 years ago now. And so now we have a team of 8, which is crazy because when I started, I think there were 4 of us. So we've doubled over 3 years, which is exciting.
And that team is kind of an anomaly. Very rarely do I meet financial advisors who are working in a team that large.
Yeah.
So what makes that happen for that team? Like what is the key to the success of the team?
I think it's realizing what we're all really good at and letting people shine in those areas. And so I think one thing too is the team was built out of a desire for a real lack in the marketplace for what we wanted. And so I think a lot of people do want a team approach, not just their one kind of Lone Ranger model, which is really common in the industry.
It is very common.
Yeah, and I think even sitting down with my wife Ashley and I, asking each other what is it what we want, right? We're consumers of this stuff too. And so one thing that we always came back to was that we did want a team. We wanted lots of sets of eyes because 8 heads are better than one.
Right.
And I think sometimes it's a real value add for prospective clients coming in. They say, well, some people, you got the do-it-yourselfers who like to say, well, I've done all this, I've managed all this for. You say, well, we've got 3 CFPs on the team. We've got a JD. Someone who's got a master's in tax. We've got a CPA. Like you've got like a star-studded team here that we can just pick apart what you're doing. And the worst case is I want to tell you that you did everything right.
Right.
Like worse for the wear, right?
Right. More eyes are better than just one.
Yeah.
And then you guys have the ability to service people better because they can talk to whoever's in the team.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I think too we really wanted. We never wanted to have a client have to call a 1-800 number to get anyone. And so knowing that I always make the joke that like we know their dog's birthday, right? That we're just so in tune with their family and what they need that they know that they can either give us a call, shoot an email, and someone's going to respond right away.
Because you guys have created a relationship.
Yeah, absolutely.
A really strong relationship.
Yeah.
Which is what we try to do. I want to know, what's going on in your life.
Right.
Because it might have some impact on, your taxes or your finances or all these things that, we should look at.
Yeah. And I think, life always has a funny way of changing. And so, you got clients who move, they start businesses, their families grow, and so it's fun even seeing, clients who've been with us for so long, just seeing how much they've changed and grown even throughout the years. And it's funny because they don't think about it because you're so in it day to day.
Right.
But that's a fun part of actually reviewing with clients. And sometimes we pull up their plan from when we first met them and there's tons of red on the graph and they're like, you need to be saving $1 million a year or whatever to get there. But then showing how much progress we've made and they're like, oh, that's right, we have done that. So getting them off the treadmill of life a little bit.
Yeah, into those goals. That's why we do goal planning. I actually had a client the other day who's like, we need to pay off this credit card. And I was like, okay, how much is it? I was like, and how fast do you want to clear how she's just buried with it. I was like, well, how much is it? And she's like, well, this much. And I'm like, well, how fast do you want to pay it off? And she's like, oh, in 3 months or whatever. And I'm like, just do the math on that real fast. I'm like, okay, this is how much you have to save a week. Like, this is how much you have to pay towards it.
Yeah.
Like, a week. It was like $100 or something. And
Yeah.
she's like, oh. I was like, does it feel so big? She's like, nope.
Yeah.
You know, like just being able to break stuff down for people like that.
And I think, I always try to remind clients too, everyone feels like the weight of planning, right? It's one of the things that we know it's important, but sometimes isn't urgent with people. But I always tell them planning's a marathon and it's not a sprint. And that's one thing, part of what you do, which is so important, is really getting dialed in on the vision and goals for what clients want to achieve, because that's the first thing we always come back to with clients, is reminding them what they're, day in, day out, what they're doing and what they're building and what they're trying to accomplish. And so as long as we can zoom out sometimes to say, hey, here's what we're working towards, just to remind you, but we're going to get, I think the average client relationship is probably within Northwestern, it's probably 30 to 40 years, which is insane. And so we say, look, we're going to get 30 to 40 different passes at going through the vision. Things are going to change. Your plan's going to change, which is so important to always just pull them off the treadmill of life, at least once a year, just to see how things are going and make adjustments.
Yeah. So that's one thing that you guys make a really, 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 really focused effort to do, is to make sure you're going through your clients' goals.
Yeah, absolutely.
At least once a year, right? And that's your job as the lead advisor, right?
Yeah, so we've got about 200 families that we work with. And so my goal, or really my role on the team, is just to make sure that everyone's doing what they need to execute on their plan. Because again, there's so many things, there's so many, I guess, different circumstances vying and demanding our dollar, right? So it's always to make sure that a client, one, that they're doing what they need to do, and secondly, we're in this every day. So I always have to remind myself, okay, they never look at this stuff, but once a year, right? Yeah, I know. So it's funny. I mean, some of the top questions we have for clients. Wait, they're like, I know you've said this before, but can you please explain again how this works? And I'm like, that is I tell clients, like, you're not the only person who asks that. So I think sometimes too is making clients feel like it's not just them, right? That our group of clients are always asking the same questions. But we're all working towards the same thing here.
Yeah, and I try to do that with my clients too. I'm like, let me just free you up.
Yeah.
You're not the only one who does this, or the only one who's missing this piece, or that, and this, that, or the other thing. And it's usually the same thing, right?
Yeah, right. Yes.
And I don't know if that's cultural or just something we're never taught, or how that works. So what have been some of the biggest obstacles in building the firm? You guys just brought on somebody else. It's been kind of hard finding all the perfect pieces. Yeah.
So I think the mantra of our team is that we're going to figure it out.
I love that.
And so if there's a problem, we'll solve it. And as problems come up, then we try to figure them out. So I think the biggest, it's funny, we actually just did once a quarter, we try to convene as a team. We've got a coach that we work with, and then we'll try to go somewhere off-site for a team building or our bonding exercise. So, but even last week it was talking, as the team has gotten bigger, now it's starting to institutionalize processes and having standard operating procedures. And that's probably been the biggest hurdle, at least as of recently, is now that we've got we've moved from a jack of all trades model, which we've been doing for, the past few years, to more of a master of some. And so now it's trying to identify, the way I visualize it, if we have a client kind of on the experience of our conveyor belt, who are they talking to at what point, and who's responsible for what? Because now it's not just me having to do, 6 different things. It's now, this person's now in charge of this. So making sure that communication is really open. But the nice thing is we're still a relatively small team, so we can just yell at each other from across the hall. It seems to work out.
8 seems like a ton to me. I mean, we have 3, and I just instituted our CRM, which I talk about all the time because we were just nuts about it, because it facilitates communication. I don't have to ask anybody where anything's at.
Yeah.
I know. And it has completely freed me up to be like, okay, cool, I can just look at the one page and know where everything's at, and we can all move on with our lives.
Yeah, and I'm so thankful that we have people on our team who are really tech savvy too, because I mean, as we had like spreadsheets to track spreadsheets, and so
that sounds like something I would build.
Right, and it was painful. Like our Monday morning meetings were just like opening up 5 different spreadsheets, and so we've got people who are smart enough to say, well, we've got with our CRM technology, why don't we just integrate everything? And that's the nice thing about Northwestern is they're really spending a lot of dollars on technology right now and trying to make it more robust, which is helpful. So now we don't have to go to 3 different reporting systems, that it's all integrated, which is nice. Yeah. But thank God for people who can run that and just tell me what to do, and I'll do it. It might take a bit, but
you helped with some of that implementation, though. Weren't you saying that it had been?
Yeah,
a whole process getting that.
Yeah, a little bit. And I think one of the things too is we just brought on someone for our investment operations, and so I was kind of the fire putter outer for the last few months on that, and that's not my forte. And so he's Army Ranger background, so nice. Like very like militaristic, super process oriented, which is fantastic. But he asked me like, so what's the process for this right now? And I was like, that's a great question. Thank you.
Go ahead and create one.
Exactly. I mean, that was we onboarded 2 people really quickly, and I was the one to kind of train them and get them up to speed. And so he was asking me all these good questions. Wait, does this system to talk to this system and all this? And I said, his name's Corey. I said, Corey, I'm going to tell you what I told Paul when he started a couple weeks ago. These are great questions you're asking. And that's all I can say. Here's a number to call. I can't help you. I have no idea.
It's so funny. I'm extreme systems person. And so it's the implementation of said system is where when stuff breaks down. And so anytime I think a system is a good system, I take it to my people because I'm like, are you going to use the system?
Right.
Because I'm not going to create it if you're not going to use it.
Yeah.
So I've learned how to be better at that. But it's awesome to have somebody on the team that's like, I need a system for this and a system for this, and can I create your system?
Yeah, and I think the nice thing is too, I think naturally that's how Royce is very, very methodical.
Mm-hmm. Well, he is also a CPA.
Right. So that's one of the things he's always said is if there's a problem, just build a process around it, and then you don't have a problem anymore. So he's really instituted a lot of it, but now it's his main focus is almost kind of like the CEO role in the organization. So he's really just about building and finding new relationships and identifying potential clients for the team, and so he's almost taking his hands off the wheel to some extent. So we'll run something by him, but he'll be like, well, how about this and this and this and this? And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Because what works for the team might not be something he gives.
Right, or sometimes it's, well, why don't we do this? It's like, we tried that without you knowing, and it didn't work, so.
We've already problem solved that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But thanks for your input.
I need some of those people in my life.
Yeah, right.
I'm going to have you hire my people.
Perfect.
So what is different about how you guys work with your clients? So you have the team approach, but you also have the way that...
I think at least what we're told a lot from clients, again, we're probably in a little vacuum, but one thing is we're told a lot is clients have a financial junk drawer is the way that I usually describe it. They walk in, either they checked a box at work, or they did something a while ago when it made sense, and someone kind of like a quick product placement for them, like, okay, done. But I think it's just done in silos, right? We make decisions very compartmentalized, and so I think part of the value, at least for our team, is getting the clients to assemble all these things together to first off make sure they're talking to each other, because more often than not, I think that's the biggest thing we find is that they say, oh, I've been working with this investment guy, been managing him, doing a good job. We say, okay, but is he talking to your insurance person? Well, I don't have an insurance person. Well, do you have insurance? Yeah. Well, who's it with? I don't know. So it's like, okay, well, these are 2 parts of your plan that aren't talking to each other. So one of the analogies we like to use is almost a football analogy, right? You've got to have a head coach managing all the separate coaches to make sure the piece is working. So from a client, right now we find is our clients are trying to be the head coach role. So they're trying to talk to their offensive coordinator, then their defensive coordinator. They're running around special teams, but they're just so in it that they're not really understanding how it's all coming together. So what we tell clients is we want to put you up in the owner's box, communicate the vision, what you want to have accomplished. We'll be your head coach,
I love it.
right? Or your GM, and we'll make sure we'll talk to your offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. Sometimes we'll play those roles for clients, but I think it's just having that bigger planning view. I don't think clients are really getting a lot.
I absolutely agree with that. And that's why, we work closely with all the financial advisors, again, because you guys are proactive. we might be reactive. We try to be extremely proactive, but we don't want the client to make decisions that don't make financial sense for their goals.
Yeah.
Because again, it's all goal oriented.
Yeah, and I think it's just everyone's working for the same goal here.
Right.
So, right, if we don't have, if the tax strategy is not lining up with the financial plan, like, we always want to make sure there's a lot of synergy and everything's working together really well.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, yes, which is why we get along so well.
Me too.
Yeah.
I know I've had clients call me and be like, I'm going to, do this with our assets. And I'm just like,
are you sure?
Why?
Yeah.
And this is what you told me your goal was.
Right.
Like, has that changed or not changed? At least we can do everything through the lens of the goals, right? And things do change. Okay, so this has changed for you. You told me you wanted to build this empire, and now you're decided to go sell your practice to some,
right.
Somebody that's going to give you bottom dollar.
Right.
What has changed here?
Yeah.
And how does that fit into your goals? It's very interesting to watch. But you're right, everything changes, and that's fine. But I am going to remind
just let us know.
I'm just going to remind you
right.
of what you told me you wanted.
Yeah, exactly. And that's fine. I mean, it's funny sometimes, like, feeding back what clients said to us back to them. They're like, oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, one, you were listening, but secondly, oh, that's right, I did say that. Right? It is. Like, I think clients are just so, like, again, we probably work with similar people, just really successful business owners, highly compensated salespeople. People are just, running really hard day in, day out, so they don't really think about their planning too much. And so I think the value add is just, again, to think high level, big 30,000 foot overview.
And pull them back to that place where they were
like,
this is what I want.
And making sure that their actions are lining up with their intentions.
Right.
Exactly. Right. If I want to pay less in taxes, well, then stop doing, you're doing something really inefficient over here that's causing more taxes.
Right.
Are you thinking through that? Well, no, because we're running so hard every day. So.
It's very interesting. So before I ask you my last question, what's the easiest way for people to find you?
Well, we're everywhere. So we've got a Facebook page, Royce Zimmerman and Associates. Our website's roycezimmerman.com.
Okay. And I always link everything in the description box.
So that we're on LinkedIn. I'm trying to think of where else.
You have a Facebook page.
We do.
Are you on Instagram?
We are not.
Just teasing you.
Yeah. That's probably a good thing. No one wants to see our mugs any more than they have to.
Who do you have in office that could start an Instagram page?
Oh, Liv on our team could probably do it, but I don't know what we would take photos of. It's like we usually just post stuff to the Facebook page. It's just like team photos and all that stuff.
Just the random stuff?
Yeah, exactly. All
right. So in your experience, final question.
Yes.
What is the one thing most people are missing in their financial portfolios?
The biggest thing, I think it's kind of been the theme of what we've been talking about. It's that they don't know what they want to accomplish with it. Right? There's no purpose.
Or how it fits together.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, I'm invested this way. Well, why? I don't know. I mean, that's honestly, sometimes it's like, oh, we just checked the box. Or, hey, I saw that the market, air quotes, was doing really well, so I bought in. So I'm just doing that because that's what I heard.
I bought a bunch of Apple stock while I was
right. Yeah, right. Yeah, I bought a lot of Tesla stock or something. Like, that sounded like a good idea. And that's what, it's, oddly enough, it's like that herd mentality sometimes, but...
It's like the Bitcoin. Like, everybody bought Bitcoin, 6 months ago?
Yeah, right.
And then it went...
Exactly. Yeah, so I think it's just really saying, okay, what's the outcome, right? Begin with the end in mind is a big theme that we have, and so trying to get clients to think, okay, right, I'm saving, but what am I saving for? How much do I need to be saving, and where do I need to be saving those dollars? So honestly, I think it's just that big... It's getting clients to think a little bit longer term sometimes and figuring out what they're trying to accomplish.
Big, hairy goal.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome.
So.
Thank you so much for coming today.
Yes, thank you. It was fun.
Yay!
All right.
Hey y'all, thanks for listening. If you found this podcast to be inspiring, helpful, and entertaining, please like and subscribe. This helps us grow the community and reach more people. If you are interested in learning more about this episode's guest or accessing any of the books or other resources mentioned in this episode, be sure to check out the description box below. Until next time, be abundant.